Hey y'all, so we have finally started working on the house again in earnest now that spring is here, and we have a little bit of an update and a bit of an educational video here for y'all. So we're finally at a point where we're starting to add stuff back into the house as opposed to just doing demo and dragging stuff out. If you've been keeping up with the story of our remodel and saw our previous videos about remodeling this cottage, then you might remember that our original plan was to insulate everything with light straw clay. However, as you'll hear Gabe talk about, that was going to be extremely time prohibitive, and we're kind of trying to get into this house as soon as possible, to be honest. If we were to stick with the plan of doing the light straw clay, we wouldn't end up being able to move into this house anytime soon. We would have to spend at least another winter in the big house, and that's just not going to work for us. So we have changed our insulation plan, and we are going to be talking about the insulation that we have chosen to use in place of the straw we were originally intending.
So we started insulating the house today. It's been it's been a pretty easy job so far. I didn't expect it to be too terribly hard, but
It's like every other step, it's the prep work that takes forever. And then once you get to the final step, it's like, oh wow, this is easy.
Definitely. I think we mentioned it in a previous video that our plan was to do light straw clay insulation, which is, it's literally straw mixed with a clay slip solution. It's straw mixed with clay, water. Usually you mix it by hand, but there's ways to like mechanize it that we didn't have. So yeah, we were gonna mix it all by hand. We were gonna have to like start digging ponds basically to go harvest clay from the land. Obviously you can purchase the clay if you want, but I didn't want to do that. It was just shaping up to be kind of a massive endeavor, digging the ponds, cleaning and preparing the clay, having a big like mixing party / installation party. You save a lot of money on the materials, but you pay for it in labor hours. So we were gonna have to, throw a mixing day party, get like 6 people out here to mix up all the clay. You and I could have done it. We could have done like one, 8-foot section of the wall at a time, like a whole lift or whatever. But it would have taken us all summer to do the whole house, just the two of us. Probably not all summer. It would have taken us a month to do the whole house if it was like just the two of us or just the three of us with Dad helping. And then once it's in the walls, you have to, for every inch of insulation that you install, you have to give it a week of drying time. And it's even, it's better to like bring fans down and dehumidifiers to like really draw the moisture out. So we were looking at like all that labor, and then the walls would have been like, in a perfect world, they would have been like 10 or 12 inches thick. So we were looking at like 3 months of dry time, which in a perfect world is fine. Like I would like to do that eventually when we remodel Baby Bear, the other guest house that's out here. I would still love to do that. Anna Rose and I just really want to hurry up and get into our own space out here, kind of have our own life again, not have roommates anymore. So we've elected to buy insulation and go that route. Not to say I still do plan, I'm gonna end up regretting saying this anyway, but I still do plan to do the light straw clay for the interior walls of the house, which they're 2x4 stud walls, so 3.5 inches, 3.5 weeks of drying time. We can be working on other stuff. Yeah, I still want to try and do that. But anyway, we've elected to purchase insulation, and because nothing can ever be simple, this is what I bought, which is Rockwool insulation or mineral wool insulation. We demoed this house and it was horrible. It was previously insulated with fiberglass and it was just moldy and gross and like, anyway, it was a nightmare to pull it out. This house has had previous sort of moisture issues. That's actually why we're remodeling this house in the first place, is we had a pipe break out here and the place flooded and no one ever bothered to clean it up. So we're remediating pretty hard out here. So anyway, the Rockwool sort of helps us to get ahead of that problem in the future. It's a byproduct of mineral wool manufacturing. It is an inert substance, so it doesn't off gas, which is important for clean indoor air environment. But it resists moisture, and because it resists moisture, it won't get moldy like the fiberglass before it. It was like a carpet, just a wet, nasty carpet falling on my head out of the ceiling. Oh, and it's like super flame retardant. So if this place ever catches fire, which, since we're gonna have wood burning stoves in here, could very well happen. It doesn't really burn that well either. So it's just, the performance on it is awesome. It was definitely an investment. It is more expensive than traditional, like the pink insulation, the fluffy pink insulation. It's not as expensive as wool, which we were also looking at. I just couldn't bring myself to pay for something like that, to pay that much for wool bats. Even before we started on this house, like, it was really when we got the bus that I went down the whole like building science rabbit hole. And not that many people are going to see this video anyway, but I'm sure even the few that do, there are going to be those who disagree with what we're doing, like the way that we're doing it, because like literally there's just there's just scores of schools of thought on like what is the best wall construction, because of what we're inheriting, which is an old barn turned into a house that doesn't have a vapor barrier on the outside. It won't have a vapor barrier on the inside, has had previous moisture issues. I chose this product as like, what is it? The best, least worst, most economical and time-saving product to use. Another thing that I like about the wool is that it's vapor permeable, right? And because we don't have a vapor barrier on the outside, and we're going to do plaster on the inside, which is vapor permeable as well. Like, our whole wall system, in effect, will always be able to breathe, right? And especially considering the old barn siding that we're keeping, the ability for that to, like, if it gets wet or if moisture comes in contact with it, the ability for that to continue to breathe and to dry out is going to be really important for like keeping this building standing as long as
mold free.
And mold free as long as possible. The new, more fashionable, building science, whatever. And honestly, kind of unfortunately, even the way that the codes are being rewritten is tending towards this as well. Is like, buildings aren't supposed to breathe anymore, right? They're supposed to be basically like igloos, like perfectly air sealed and like hyper insulated whatever boxes. That's more expensive. That's the biggest problem, is it's way more expensive to build that way, but also for a remodel, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Especially when we're talking about remodeling an old barn. Like, I know somebody's gonna say like, oh, why don't you just like spray foam this whole place, right? And the issue with that is, if you spray foam or if you insulate a structure like this and make it completely like airtight, you then have to also add another cost. You have to also add mechanical ventilation, right? So now we're talking about adding AC, adding, all that extra crap that I don't want to pay for and that we really shouldn't need. That's how I'm thinking of it, is like, there's the old way of building a house and there's sort of the newish way to build a house. And I understand that a lot of people sort of whatever are here now. It really bothers me that you can't be here without having to buy every single new bell and whistle and whatever
To
do
make
that.
it work.
To make it work. Yeah, because that's the other thing is like if you try and do this, like if we spray foamed this, right? But then we didn't get our ventilation right, like the mold in here, oh my God, like we would die. We would die of black mold almost immediately, you know? And that's the question I have for people too is like, do you live in a spray foam home? Like if your power is out for any amount of time, like how do you not just suffocate and die in there? I just think it's also like, okay, the biggest the biggest takeaway I got from living with your mom all of those years. So we lived with Anna Rose's mom, like pretty much all through college in Houston. This house had no insulation whatsoever in the walls, which had a ton of drawbacks. However, this house also flooded in how many floods? At least 4?
Like half a dozen.
Yeah, it's flooded at least half a dozen times. No mold. No mold whatsoever. And it's just not a lesson that I'm willing to sort of give up on so easily because of that experience, which is, you know, if you respect nature, if you keep things, you know, permeable, if you keep things breathing, you are probably going to be 99% of the way of where you need to be. You're going to be 99% of the way. You're going to be pretty much where you need to be.